Have you ever heard of the Ottoman Sultan, who built one of the world's most powerful navies, only to be overthrown and die under mysterious circumstances? This is the dramatic story of Sultan Abdülaziz Han, a ruler caught between grand ambitions and devastating crises. Let's dive into the turbulent life of the 32nd Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. When Abdulaziz ascended to the throne in 1861, he inherited an empire in the middle of a massive transformation. His brother, Abdülmecid I, had kicked off the Tanzimat reforms, a period of intense modernization. But these reforms came at a cost. The empire was drowning in debt and facing immense pressure from European powers. Abdulaziz knew he had to continue modernizing, but he decided to put his own spin on it, focusing heavily on military might. His primary passion was the navy. Abdulaziz poured colossal sums of money into creating a naval force that could rival the great powers of Europe. He commissioned state-of-the-art ironclad warships, and for a brief, glorious moment, the Ottoman navy became the third largest in the world, right after Britain and France. Imagine the sight of these modern naval giants flying the Ottoman flag. It was a powerful statement to the world that the empire was not a sick man to be trifled with. He also championed the expansion of railways and telegraph lines, understanding that a modern state needed modern infrastructure to connect its vast territories and speed up communication. But Abdulaziz wasn't just about building things at home. He was a trailblazer in Ottoman diplomacy. In an unprecedented move, he became the first Ottoman Sultan to ever travel abroad on an official state tour. In 1867, he embarked on a grand journey through Europe, visiting Paris, London, Vienna, and Berlin. He dined with Queen Victoria, met Emperor Napoleon III, and walked the halls of European palaces. This wasn't just a sightseeing trip. It was a calculated diplomatic mission. Abdulaziz wanted to show the world that the Ottoman Empire was a modern, sophisticated nation, an equal partner in the concert of Europe, not just a decaying relic of the past. These visits were a spectacle, capturing the imagination of the European public and signaling a new era of Ottoman engagement with the West. However, behind the facade of modernization and diplomatic glamour, a storm was brewing. All those ironclad ships, shiny new railways, and lavish palaces came with a staggering price tag. Abdulaziz's government borrowed heavily from foreign banks to fund these ambitious projects. The spending was unsustainable, and the debt piled up at an alarming rate. It was a classic case of trying to do too much, too fast. By the mid-1870s, the financial situation had become catastrophic. The Ottoman Empire was forced to declare sovereign default, essentially admitting to the world that it was bankrupt. This financial collapse had devastating consequences. Public services faltered, soldiers went unpaid, and the economy spiraled into crisis. Naturally, public dissatisfaction soared. People who had once admired the Sultan's vision now saw him as a reckless spendthrift who had bankrupted the nation. This growing anger created a fertile ground for political opposition. Inside the palace walls, tensions were just as high. A powerful group of reformist bureaucrats, led by figures like Midhat Pasha, believed that the empire needed more than just ships and railways. They argued for a constitution and a parliament to limit the Sultan's absolute power and provide more stable governance. They saw Abdulaziz's autocratic style and extravagant spending as the root of the problem. On the other side were conservative elements who resisted the Western-style reforms altogether. Abdulaziz found himself caught in the middle, trying to balance these competing factions while holding on to his own authority. The situation reached a boiling point in 1876. A combination of financial crisis, popular unrest, and political intrigue created the perfect storm. The reformist ministers, backed by the military, decided to act. In a swift and bloodless palace coup, they surrounded Dolmabahce Palace and forced Sultan Abdulaziz to abdicate the throne. He was deposed in favor of his nephew, Murad V. The deposed Sultan was moved to Feriye Palace, effectively under house arrest. What happened next is one of the great mysteries of Ottoman history. Just 4 days after being overthrown, on June 4, 1876, Abdulaziz was found dead. The official report declared that he had committed suicide by cutting his wrist with a pair of scissors. But from the very beginning, this official story was met with widespread skepticism. Many people, including members of his own family, refused to believe that the deeply religious and proud former sultan would take his own life. Rumors of assassination spread like wildfire. Was he murdered to prevent any chance of him returning to power? The evidence was inconclusive, and the controversy has raged for over a century. His death remains shrouded in mystery, a dark and tragic end for a once powerful ruler. He was buried in Istanbul, but the questions surrounding his death were never laid to rest. The fall of Sultan Abdülaziz was a pivotal moment. It marked the end of an era of absolute monarchical rule and directly paved the way for the first constitutional period. Just a few months after his death, the Ottoman Empire adopted its first ever constitution, and a parliament was established. His deposition triggered a chain of events that would fundamentally reshape the empire in its final decades. So, how should we remember Sultan Abdulaziz Han? He was a ruler of immense contradictions. He was a visionary modernizer who dramatically strengthened his empire's military and raised its international profile. He was a patron of the arts and a symbol of Ottoman pride. Yet, his reign was also defined by financial recklessness, political instability, and ultimately a tragic and violent end. His story is a powerful reminder of the immense challenges the Ottoman Empire faced as it struggled to adapt to a rapidly changing world. He dreamed of a powerful, modern empire, but the foundations of that dream were built on borrowed money and political division, and in the end, it all came crashing down. Thank you for watching this journey into the life of Sultan Abdulaziz. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the dramatic history of the Ottoman Empire. See you in the next video.